Just 2 days, on February 7th, lawmakers will vote on our state's newest judges. Ahead of the vote, Andrea Mock has been looking into how judges are elected in our state and how South Carolina ended up with an all-male Supreme Court. Some of the answers she found may surprise you. Andrea.
South Carolina is currently the only state in the nation to have an all-male Supreme Court. So, how did we get here? Well, former Chief Justice Jean Toll retired back in 2015, leaving only one woman on the court, Justice Hearn. She retired at the end of 2022. So in January of 2023, our research shows that 3 judges were found qualified by the Judicial Merit Selection Commission and then made it into the General Assembly for a vote. Now, at the time, Judge Aphrodite Condoris had served on the Court of Appeals for 15 years. Judge Stephanie McDonald had served on the Court of Appeals for 9 years. And Judge Gary Hill, he had the least amount of time on the Court of Appeals with 6 years. But despite that, in February of 2023, the General Assembly chose Gary Hill for the Supreme Court, making it an all-male court. So, when I got an audience with 2 influential senators, Brad Hutto and Shane Massey, I asked them about the makeup of the court. I know that there were 2 great female candidates for the Supreme Court, and neither of them made it through. Any talk of changing that in the future or the next time a seat becomes available?
I'm not going to vote for somebody who has a worldview that I think is inconsistent with where I think the state ought to go.
So after my interview aired, Women in Leadership released a newsletter condemning lawmakers and what they had to say and their practices for choosing judges. Now I've had the chance to speak to former Supreme Court Justice Hearn and get her reaction.
I saw such a shift in attitudes among the members of the General Assembly when I ran for the Supreme Court beginning in 2007. Even though there was only one other woman on the Supreme Court, the only woman ever, I was asked over and over again by members of the General Assembly, don't we already have one woman? As though there was some quota.
When Judge Hearn was up for the state Supreme Court in 2007, she was chief on the Court of Appeals. But 2 separate times, a man, considered her junior, was chosen by the General Assembly for the seat. On the 3rd time, she was elected to the High Court.
Because honestly, Andrea, I was shocked that I was asked that question. It's one thing to think it, but to actually verbalize it, and it wasn't one legislator, it was many legislators. And I think we've just seen that attitude continue, and it culminated in the most recent election.
So when Hearn retired, she says she was disappointed, but not shocked that Gary Hill, who had the least amount of time on the Court of Appeals, was chosen to replace her instead of Stephanie McDonald and Aphrodite Condoris.
Everyone will tell you that Gary Hill is a brilliant jurist and very deserving to being on the Supreme Court. Personally, I just don't believe it was his turn. Women are frequently told it's not our turn.
I asked Senator Brad Hutto and Senator Shane Massey why neither female candidate was chosen. Hutto said it came down to abortion. Massey said he wanted to choose someone who saw the world the way he did.
I saw the interview. I was all the way over on the other side of the world.
The bar needs to do a better job of grooming female and minority lawyers.
Didn't mention male candidates. So to me, the clear implication from that statement was all the white male candidates are qualified, but the bar needs to do a better job of putting forth qualified women and minority candidates.
In January of 2022, Hearn penned the decision that struck down the fetal heartbeat bill, and she says lawmakers were eager to replace her with somebody who would support the ban.
I think it's undeniable that the first opinion in the Fetal Heartbeat Act case did impact it. I authored that opinion, very disconcerting, although I do think Senator Hutto was being honest that it was about abortion.
Going forward, Hearn says voters need to pay close attention to who your lawmakers support on the courts.
We need more diversity in the General Assembly if this is the body that's going to elect our judiciary.
After Gary Hill took his place on the Supreme Court, the issue of abortion was back in front of the High Court again. In August of 2023, the South Carolina Supreme Court upheld the state's new near-total ban on abortion with a 4-to-1 vote. This reversed the decision that was penned by Justice Hearn. Now, in April of this year, Chief Justice Donald Beatty, the only minority on the court, will turn 72. That's the mandatory age of retirement. In November, the Judicial Merit Selection Commission announced they screened Justice John Kitridge to replace him. They found him qualified. That will leave Kitridge's seat open, and it will also leave the court with no women and no minorities. The legislature will vote on the next round of judges that have screened through the Judicial Merit Selection Commission process. They will vote February 7th at noon. So to see this list of who's been nominated, you can look for my story at WLTX.com. And if you want to have a say on who they choose for the bench, you need to reach out to your state lawmakers.